5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Let's go.
18.
18, here we go.
18.
We got Tony Rossi finally. He's not over on the other seat over there. And I apologize, we couldn't even really see you last time.
The other seat.
Other seat.
It's not the naughty chair. It's definitely the you worked
It
your way.
should have been.
It might be naughty now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So thank you for coming on the show. We had an opening for today, and Tony was gracious enough to bless us with his presence, and this is going to be a great podcast today. So you are a man of many talents, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. And as always, we have Brett Dumas.
Still filling in for Mr. Griffin.
You know, I think we're doing a lot of conversations, and either this room needs to change a little bit, and I'm going to say this right now, I'm willing to give that goddamn fish tank away for free to expand this room, so you're a permanent fixture.
Yeah.
So if it ends up being me, you, and Matt,
I'm down for that.
more the merrier, man.
Yep.
This is a family function, so, you know, it could be 6 of us by the time we're, you know.
You could raffle the tank off to one of your viewers.
I know how to maximize the space in this room.
I would definitely need your help. Like, there's so much nonsense going over there. You know, the YouTube world can't see this, but we have about 20 people in here. And, you know, we have our sound guy, we have our lighting guys. You know,
Key grips. There's a key grip over there.
Yeah.
so many people.
Boom engineer.
Yeah.
The groupies.
Can't forget the groupies.
Oh, no, it's all about the groupies. Yeah. So what do you guys got for drinks tonight?
I'm drinking another one by Cooper and Thief. This is a aged in red wine blend, aged 3 months in bourbon whiskey barrels. So the one I had previously was 6 months aged in bourbon barrels. So when you go from 3 months to 6 months, it's double the time and double the price. So I went 3 months.
Capitalism right there.
And double the flavor.
Yeah. Oh, I guess, you know, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
By the second glass, does it really matter?
And what do you got there, Tony?
So I just got a Da Vinci Chianti. It's just my go-to. I could drink like 2 bottles of these a night if I wanted to, and it's okay.
This is actually what the Rossi children drink as babies.
Yes, yeah.
They come out and they're like, we don't give formula.
Right
Yeah.
out of the nipple.
Yeah.
I mean the bottle.
You do have to teach them at a young age to, you know, when I was a kid, my mom never told us I couldn't drink. And as long as we were home and everything was cool. And we always had this respect. Like when I went out, I would just tell her what I'm doing. It was so much easier to say, you know, she'd be like, is there drinking? Probably. Is there going to be drugs? Probably. And then she's like, are you going to do any of those? And I'd tell her, I'm probably going to drink a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm certainly not going to drive. You know, we always had our designated driver for the night, you know, and this way we could do shenanigans and nobody really got hurt.
Yep.
And it's amazing that a lot of people, especially this generation now, well, I guess it might be a little bit different. Like they have Uber and all that other stuff. I guess if I would have had that, then I probably would have used it more.
Probably would have got ugly.
I was going to say, it would have.
You know, like,
I don't know.
just you don't even have to talk to anybody. It's all on your phone. So
Yeah.
if you can figure out the app,
Right.
You
good.
can get a ride.
you know. So imagine if like we were 18, 19, 16, and
Jeez.
Yeah.
you know, just pre-order it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you drunk?
Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in about 6 hours, I'm going to need this.
I'm
need a
going to
ride?
be wasted in a little bit.
Do you need a ride home? Yes, but I got it. It's right on my phone.
Yep, I got
I
it.
can always come pick up the car later on.
Yeah.
You know,
Uber
I,
back to your car, yeah.
Could you imagine? I mean, the stuff that they have nowadays. So I, for one, am drinking oolong tea tonight because I'm not feeling well. Diverticulitis has struck again. And like I was telling you guys, I think I'm going for the surgery. I'm making an appointment, and we're going to talk about it.
If you want, we could do it on the podcast. We'll just be like,
it's a perfect table for
yeah,
it.
just give me a knife. I'm sure we could figure it out.
I'll just show you exactly where it hurts
Yeah,
and just go
just
right
go
in
there.
there.
Yeah. I mean, you got the general area.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We might take a little more than
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah, give or take here or there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
as long as it gets fixed.
Probably
It's
have-
cheaper. I'm sure it's way cheaper than insurance.
Just
Probably
let us know
have
if
to
it
mute
hurts.
We'll have to mute your microphone for sure.
What's that stuff they knock you like they come up with the rag and they go to that go. What's that called?
Chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll. Yeah. Let me know
Chlorophyll,
if that
yeah. I
smells
know what
like
that is.
chlorophyll.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you know how to make that?
Chlorophyll and Oragel.
Yeah, a little orange on it.
Yeah. I once stitched my knee up with Oragel.
Well, might want
That's
to
a
write
true
notes.
story.
Call the cops on Tony after this is done. So, interesting fact about Tony is, and I don't think anybody would even like if I said to you, Brett, if we didn't know Tony, what do you think Tony does for work? What's the first thing you would say that comes to your head?
He hunts the abominable snowman
Wildebeests.
and
I
wildebeest.
prefer wildebeest.
I would say a bouncer, straight off the top. Or he, actually, when I first saw him when he first came here last week, I definitely thought of a butcher, like a meat butcher.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be kind of cool, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could just see him with a cleaver and a
Yeah,
side
yeah.
of beef. Yeah.
You want a T-bone, man?
But go ahead and tell the world what you do.
So, I am an architectural designer. I've been in the field for, I don't know, probably about 20 years, 20 plus years. I started off as a carpenter, much like Jesus, and not so virtuous though, but,
So what was the spin from
so
what you were
I
going to
suppose like I always had like a desire and kind of like interest in like ripping things apart and putting them back together ever since I was like a kid. And my grandfather used to get so pissed I'd like rip the lawnmower apart and put it back together after he yelled at me in like 10 minutes and then finish mowing the lawn.
Sometimes that included ripping people apart.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
and ripping people apart because you got to see what they're made of. So yeah, and then so I'm always interested in building things and figuring things out, how to make it work and how to make it better.
Yeah.
And or if it could be made better, if not, then I'd throw it away. But that's a whole. And so I guess that's so. And so then as life happens, I get fired from a Subway for making pizzas. By the way, I was the first person to make pizzas at Subway. Now they're making them.
Yeah, they're on the menu.
They're
for a
on the
while after
menu,
that.
yeah,
He
yeah.
invented that. And
I
then they
invented
fired him.
that, by the way.
Now, which one did you work at?
Chickabee Center.
Oh, that was a rough one right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh, it was. It was pretty dicey.
Wouldn't catch me there now.
He was making pizzas for
Selling
himself. And then a guy came in like the next day when the owner was there and like wanted to order a pizza. He's like, I want them pizzas like the guy was making yesterday. He's like, whoa, what?
Listen,
Hey, you were an
I'm
entrepreneur.
an
That's
entrepreneur.
fine.
Yeah, and I like pizza, and I was.
If you could find that guy who you made pizzas for,
I could. Yeah,
you could sue Subway.
Yeah.
Maybe get like a
royalty,
like a royalty deal. Yeah.
I'll take $50
Yep.
or lifetime Subway.
Well, did you hear the new the thing about the tuna fish? That they're saying it's not even tuna. So two women filed a lawsuit against Subway for saying that their tuna fish is not even real tuna.
It's just like random fish.
It's
So
like white
allegedly,
meat.
allegedly,
Allegedly,
I believe that with just a lot of mayonnaise.
yeah. So they, I guess they had the stuff tested, and now I definitely want to fire up the laptop. So, YouTube world, if you hear my sound of my laptop going on, it's the fan. I don't know what this thing does.
Subway's going to be on Maury Povich with like a tuna fish.
Yeah.
Turns out you are not the dad.
You are not the tuna.
So, which kind of kills me because that's my favorite
Yeah.
sandwich when I go to Subway. So
Have you looked
that'll.
at the nutritional info on that thing?
I don't want to look at
Yeah,
it.
don't
I don't wanna
pull
look
that
at
up on your laptop.
And I would, why does like McDonald's have to be so bad for you? And
It's not the McRib's back. I'm just throwing that out there.
no, man. Well, Cumberland Farms had the McRib. Well, their version of the McRib.
Yeah.
Out for they still have it,
Oh, really?
and it's decent, man. Like,
Probably shouldn't have told me that.
Yeah, no.
and they run like a 2 for $3 or 2 for $4. I forget what don't quote me on the dollar
2 for
amount,
something.
but yeah, it's 2 for something.
So it's automatically a deal.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the
Lord.
price is.
Which when you go in to buy one and they say, "Would you like 2 for?" You're like,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yeah. Can I say no? No.
Even though in the back of your mind you probably just left the doctor's office and
Yeah.
he's like, you're pre-diabetic, and
Yeah.
you're like, who cares? So it's funny. I love the Whopper.
The Impossible Whopper?
Yeah, the meatless Whopper. I think it's phenomenal, right?
Told you. He hasn't tried any
I
of
haven't
the
tried it yet,
Impossibles or
yeah.
anything yet.
Listen, I was an old steak guy, meat all day long, beef, give it to me. But then when I got sick, I had to. That's one of the worst things I guess you can have with this. I don't know if you want to call it a disease. I don't think it's a disease, but
It's like
my infliction.
yeah,
It's a condition.
It's a condition.
So Burger King has the thing. Well, one of my towns that I service, they just built the most impressive Burger King I've ever seen in my entire life. And for the last 2 years I've been out there, it's been just a shell of a Burger King. Then all of a sudden one day I drive by and there's a sign that says New Burger King with the picture, and I heard angels singing and stuff. So the other on Friday, and I wasn't feeling good anyways. This wasn't Friday. This was Wednesday. So Wednesday, I drive by there and I got something small at a Coleman Farms, little side salad. I'm like, that'll tie me over till I get home. And then I drive by this place thinking, damn it. If I would have been smarter, I would have waited and got my meatless burger. But yeah, it's you got to try it.
I'll have to.
Just close your eyes and go right in there.
You don't have to close your eyes. It looks like a burger.
I'll have to.
Like, I haven't had the Impossible Whopper because I was never a fan of the regular Whopper. So, like,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah. But I've had plenty of, like, all those, plant-based, meat substitutes, Beyond. And then, there's a whole bunch of knockoffs now. And you could put them side by side, and I bet you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Like, closed eyes taste test would not be able to tell. They smell when you cook them. They smell the same.
Well, do we know what's in it? Or
It's so there's two different ones. There's Impossible and there's Beyond. At least those are the two
there's two versions.
big names.
Yeah.
Well, they're two different companies, and I right now it escapes me which one is which, but one is a lab replicated plant-based protein. Okay, so it's kind of
It's like a soybean, I think.
yeah, it's like Petri based, but there's another one, and I want to say Impossible is the one that's lab created, and don't quote me on this. And that Beyond is just basically they found the right mix of putting shit together. And I've had them both. I did actually a little stint as like vegan diet leading into pandemic, and the only reason why I didn't persist with it is because I was trying to reduce my shopping trips, and buying fresh fruits and veggies is kind of like a every other day type thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I had any real reason other than just trying to eat a little better. I was giving the vegan thing a shot. So I kind of just migrated back to being, omnivorous and eating everything. But so I ate, if there was a veggie food out there, I ate it. And I'm telling you, man, there was nothing
burger.
that I craved more than having like a Beyond Burger or an Impossible Burger. Because it was like I was eating a fucking cheeseburger.
You know what we'll do? And we'll do this very shortly. We'll go buy one.
Yeah.
And we'll make up all the fixings.
Oh yeah, and
then
do
we'll-
like a
Yeah.
Pepsi challenge.
Yeah.
We'll do that, and then we'll do it right on camera so people can see us. And I think that'd be tons of fun.
Yeah. Just have someone prepare them, cut them, bring them down, like labeled A and B. So we never even had them.
Yep.
Or had our eyes on them, and we have to try to pick. That's actually great.
Yeah.
So it says here that these samples from several California restaurants analyzed, and the filing was determined to be a mixture of various concoctions that do not constitute tuna, yet have been blended together by
When you say concoctions, is it even fish?
definits to imitate the appearance of tuna. So I don't know what that all means, but this is from ABC News, is where I'm getting my source from.
Well, if that's a class action lawsuit, I got to get on there and
Yeah.
put my name on that.
Yeah, I'm going to eat a
Yeah.
Well, here's
sort
the-
of tuna
Yeah,
sandwich.
like
from
I
Subway.
lived off those for 10 years. I want all my money back.
Because Jared told me to eat it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a big fan of Subway. I love Subway, and I don't care if they find this stuff to be,
It's still
monkey shit.
delicious.
I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the meatball sub at Subway, I
mean-
can house those.
yeah.
Those things.
No, you can swear.
I mean, yeah. And I've known what's in Taco Bell, or actually, I
Well, that's the
haven't known
thing,
what's
right.
in Taco
Yeah.
Bell
Yeah.
for 25 years, and it's still my go-to.
It's
fast
still
food restaurant.
delicious.
Yeah.
It's so delicious.
So it's fine. It's a guilty pleasure. I mean, I know alcohol is bad for me too, so
I always say you could be doing meth.
that's it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Everything else falls right into place. All right. So going back to the architect thing. So
So yeah, I got fired from Subway making pizzas.
Oh, wow, we went way off course.
Yeah, that's what I love.
all right.
That's
We
what I
can
love
just
about it.
reel it back
They've
in.
got almost 2 hours to fill. This is what we do.
And then the next door tenant of that building was moving in, and they were building it out at the time, and I was like, whatever, fire me. And I went next door. I'm like, hey man, do you need a laborer? And started chipping up a floor. Next thing you know, I worked for the guy for 10 years.
Oh wow.
And then he's still one of my greatest father figures and friends.
Stood up in your wedding.
Stood up in my wedding. Yeah,
Wow,
that
no,
guy, yeah.
Great guy.
Guy's unbelievable.
Yep.
And to this day, we still have a great relationship, and I'll still ask him random questions, even though he asks me questions all the time. I'll be like, "Hey man, how do I do this?" He's like, "Shut up and just do it."
Before I forget, though, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I looked on Facebook today, and Brad LaValle from Brad's passed away.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I just saw it before you guys got here. I meant to tell you guys when you first walked in.
What happened? He was young.
It didn't say. They said the full obituary will be out in Wednesday.
I gotta text the wife.
Yep.
That real quick.
And
Lord.
that's a sad day because
That is a sad day for Chicopee and for his family.
yeah, he gave me my first job.
I mean,
And,
yeah, we've
He's a
done
great guy.
a
Yeah.
ton of business with him, and he's been fantastic
Yeah.
all along. Yeah, that's horrible.
Oh,
So I saw it on Michelle Liswell's Facebook page. So
Oh.
shout out to Michelle Liswell for letting us know. She's always good about that stuff. She's always on top of everything that goes on in Chicopee and stuff. She's just a great person. Her brothers are great people.
he was
her
he
parents
was
were
he
great
was a
people.
stand-up guy too.
Yeah.
If anytime you brought any of your vehicles in there, he wouldn't jerk you around.
Yeah, I remember I went to a her dance, and he was going to give me the keys to his Corvette that night. And you guys remember the red Corvette he had?
Oh yeah.
I think it was no joke.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how much money he had into this thing, but there was nothing around that looked like this. He had a very unique car, and that's the way he liked to keep it.
Yeah.
And he literally handed me the keys, and he's like, "Hey, your thing's tomorrow night." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Here." I was like, "Whoa, I can't do that because I wasn't. If I wrecked that thing, I didn't put a scratch in it." And he's like, "Listen, if you do any of those things, I can fix it." And I'm like, "No, I'm not doing it." But that's the kind of guy he was, and one of my sisters worked for him for a number of years also. So I hate to be a downer right now, but we just
No,
want to pay a
that's-
little bit of
yeah.
respect to Brad. So we'll raise our glasses for him tonight. Hope wherever you are, Brad, you're doing well.
Hope you're taking it easy too and
Yep.
not working so hard.
The guy worked like a dog.
Yeah, he did. There was never a moment you went into that place and he wasn't there.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that worked there, like Brian and a couple other guys, I would consider them still family to this day. I mean,
Yeah,
those guys.
I deal with Brian all the time
Yeah.
because he's the head mechanic, and he bounces back and forth. And I mean, we're my whole family goes there now based on some experiences that we had there, and we started doing business together. We print their shirts.
Okay.
And from the moment they called us, we always try to reciprocate if we can, give business where we get business. And so they were one of our first customers when I started my business. And
Oh, nice.
we've continued to just based on my experiences with them trying to reciprocate business. My father asked me what I thought of them. I'm like, listen, if it didn't work out, whether they're giving me business or not, I would find somewhere else to work on my car. I'm like, but they've been they're straight shooters the whole time. And, Brad was always great. And then, so my father brings all his vehicles there, and, my father and I both have classic cars. We don't take them anywhere else. They do all the work on them.
Yep.
And then, family friends. I mean, we've done a ton of business with them over the last, easily 7 or 8 years. And believe me, cars need a lot more work than they need T-shirts. So, I've had a lot of experiences with them, and I wouldn't go anywhere else there. I wish all those folks well. I hope there's, some solace, for everybody in losing Brad, but also that there's something, for the employees, or, that I wish them well too, depending on what happens with the business.
Yeah, I think Brian, and I might be misspeaking here, but I think Brian is maybe an owner in the company.
Yeah.
That would have been his natural
It
progression.
would definitely make sense based on his role and,
Yeah.
and how involved he is and everything. So, I hope that for everybody.
Yeah, I've had to go there a couple times for inspection stickers and oil changes, and Brian's always, "Hey, dude, you know, and we just, I would love to be able to sit down with him after all these years and just reminisce on when we were kids. Because we were a bunch of little fuckers, you know, and
we were all saints, by the way. Every one of us.
Oh, God, I wish. But those guys, you know, mechanics had a different way of teaching you lessons. You know, I'll never forget the day Brian picked me up, and all he went to go do was pick me up, and I ended up driving my head into the bottom of this loft that we had. And, that hurt. And those guys laughed so hard.
When it was over on the other side of the street, when it was just...
Yep.
That's the gas station.
The gas station.
That's where we kept all the oil filters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good memories there. I was 14.
I think I remember you working there.
Yeah. He taught me how to drive a standard. Also, my dad did too, but he trusted me to move cars around the parking lot.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen, you got to learn sometime, kid.
Yeah.
And then, so as I got old enough to drive, I was ready to rock and roll. You know, there was no lag time for me. I was like, let's go.
Yeah, let's hammer it.
So, yeah, Godspeed to Brad, and hopefully he's in a peaceful place. So, all right.
Absolutely.
Before I get upset.
He had a Nissan GTR most recently, by the way.
Did he really?
Which is like the American version of the Skyline. Yeah. That's what his you know, because he's always driven, you know, nicer, faster cars, like you said, about the Vet. And I know he's got a couple others that, you know, I think that he sits on. But, yeah, no, his driver has been a Nissan GTR. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, sick car.
I love it. All right, big guy, one more time.
All right, yeah, sorry.
Before I interrupt you a third time.
That's all right. Interrupt away.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what stuff to talk about.
Your progression to architecture.
Yeah.
You started building out Family Dollars.
I built Family Dollars for I don't know, a good number of years, 10 years.
So what goes into doing something like that? Like
nothing. Like that's actually just it's a vanilla box. You throw some studs up, you sheetrock it, you tape it, you paint it, and you call it a day.
Yeah, not even real studs either. Metal studs.
Metal studs. Yeah.
So you in charge of putting where those studs go? Like you have to map out all that stuff.
Yeah, you have to lay it out, and there is some kind of thought going to it. You have to lay out the wall per the drawings and all this other stuff. And before even that, I kind of had I took drafting in high school.
Whose phone was that?
That was not mine.
I thought that was your laptop. My phone don't make noise.
Was it me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
Did I just yell at you guys that it was me?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, why would this thing go off?
Because it's whirring.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, so in high school, I took drafting for a couple of semesters, and I always liked it, but I always had it, I think, in the back of my head that it was on a back burner that would have to wait until I got around to it type deal. Then after, 10 years of manual labor, I'm like, to hell with this. So I'm going to.
This sucks.
Yeah, so I go back to school. Got my degree in architecture, and I've been doing that ever since 99, 2000.
And so what's the sole purpose for anybody out there who doesn't know what an architect does? What is your main purpose of?
So essentially we're peacemakers between contractors and townships and, and builders. We have to facilitate, we have to placate to the towns and not placate to them, but we have to make sure that the drawings are code compliant, which is a whole hot mess because especially now you have the IBC, which is supposed to be the International Building Code, but then every state and every town has addendums and different variations, and the only thing that is legitimately cut and dry is the ADA code.
So that's got to be so. Now you must obviously do business in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So
across the country, actually.
How do you
you
gotta look it up?
So it's every new contract you have to go look these things up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. And it's not just little things. You just got to make sure, because then you have the egos of the building inspectors, and you have to stroke their egos, because if you don't, then they're the ones that ultimately can say, unless you want to put up a fight, but if you put up a fight, you can bring it to the state. You have to know you have to have everything in a row, because and honestly, the states usually take the architect side, to be honest with you, because like I said, townships usually have egos, and they have certain situations that happened within that town that they came up with these, appendix or, addendums or whatever. And so they're specific to those towns for a reason usually. So as long as you kind of show the inspectors that you're trying to make it, life safety compliant, because that's essentially what code compliant is.
Yep.
Is you have to make sure, if there's a fire, people can get out of the building without any hindrances, or,
that the fire doesn't spread too quickly.
the fire doesn't spread too quickly. And to be honest, it's a joke, like within like the industry. It's like, nobody's going to and I tell these people, I tell this in the like safety meetings. I'm like, don't forget to grab the fucking fire extinguisher on your way out the door. They're expensive.
Because no one's going to stop. Like, I got this.
I got this.
So you
It's
do
like a 5-alarm blaze. Hold on, let me get this fire extinguisher.
So not only do you have to run all the studs, and do you do wiring and to know where all that stuff
So
goes?
as an architect is the master builder. So you have to know.
If you saw the Lego movie, you'll know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Master builder.
Yeah.
now I have to watch this.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the Lego movie?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh yeah, there's no relation at all actually, but there's master builders. Basically, they can make anything out of like any Lego pieces.
Oh really?
So yeah, they're master builders. But yeah, no relation. But it was just funny.
So like that's like architecture 101. It's like your Archie is master tectonics building, so master builder.
Yep.
Archetyped is like the master type. Tectonics. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you're going all Latin on us?
Yeah,
Is that
was-
Latin or Greek?
It's Greek.
Okay. All right.
It's like that's the Wayback Machine. That's
Yeah.
and thank God the student loans are paying off because I retain that.
Well, don't worry. I think they're gonna knock off another like 15 grand or 10 grand. I don't know what Biden's talking about now, but that'll be something.
He'll figure it out.
I think.
Shit, I wish I went to school if they get forgiven.
Well, here's the thing. We'll go off subject a little bit. Back in the day, you used to be able to go to college on a part-time job and really leave with no kind of bill to pay for the most part, right? It was minuscule at that. Now these people are leaving with $150,000 bills, or whatever that number is. It's well over $100,000 in most cases. One of my sisters just paid off her college loans. I'm 47 years old.
Yeah.
She's just a couple years younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think those loans were predatory.
Well,
100%.
Well, you have to understand how that happened, okay? And not getting into politics is part of my contract.
Yeah.
So I'll touch lightly on this.
I did
but
sign that
basically,
clause as well.
there was, there was a long period of time where tuition was, reasonably priced, and it actually kind of runs parallel with things that were taken, kind of alongside medical expenses and how much those have increased.
Right.
But basically, for a long period of time, the the educational institutions were responsible for lending, or at least securing lending for their students. And then at one point, the government stepped in. Was that Freddie Mac or
Fannie Mae.
Fannie Mae is mortgages, right? Freddie Mac is
Fannie Mae had.
Fannie Mae is okay.
Yeah,
But either way, there's a
When
couple.
I first went to school, they were Fannie Mae.
So there is some educational loan institutions that are government run, and they stepped in and are like, we got this. We'll offer no or low interest loan. Definitely not no low interest loans. To education. So that basically opened up the floodgates, and this is all how I understand it, based on something I read. It's been a little while since I read it, but opened up the floodgates because as soon as the government gets involved, let's look at how much bidding city and state and federal jobs costs. Then it's like, the government's got this. We don't have to deal with this lending shit anymore. Let's jack this up. Let's jack this up. So yeah, and then it's just been exponential since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a big person about let's get to the root cause of everything, right? And people want to complain and go crazy about like all this other shit around it. Yeah, that's fine and all, but you're going to be spinning your wheels. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to the root cause, and why did that happen? Why was that allowed to happen? Did these colleges take advantage of the federal government and the loans?
So I'm gonna say that the colleges weren't the problems, it was the lenders. The colleges, did the
Did
colleges jack?
you look up what I was just talking about?
So the average borrower owed between 25 and 30,000. Hold on a second. As early as 2020, American students were on the hook for approximately $1.6 trillion in student loans. Can you imagine? The average borrower owned between 25 and 35, up significantly from past decades. I don't even think that number's right. I mean, that's got to be like a, like your local, like HCC, or that can't be a.
I will tell you that my loans were significantly taller than that.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know. This is for a website called Investopedia, and they're
reputable.
Yeah.
I read their stuff every day.
Yeah. So this actually had bookmarked. That's why I found it so fast. I have a whole bunch of stuff bookmarked as we talk about things, like if they ever come up. And I love how they call it the maze of student loan processing. You know, it is a.
They made it so easy to get student loans. They're like, oh yeah, you're in. The school does the rest. So actually, you know what? The school had a hand in it.
Yeah, and I'm okay. Like that's a battle mentally where I want to see people go to school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we should be helping out at some level. Yeah. I just don't like when the government gets involved. And I just think every time they kind of muddy the waters a little bit. I'm I like how I'm not a huge capitalist, but I do think that in certain like if you were alone like a bank, and you knew the bank down the street had no other ties other than it was, if I don't offer the best rate, I'm going to give that in my business.
Yeah.
Those things take care of themselves. So
I don't think school should be free by any means, but I don't think it should be as crazy priced as it is. And it shouldn't vary. It should be one, because everybody's supposed to get the same education, correct? So why is Harvard more than UMass? You know what I mean? They have the same caliber of professors. Everybody's got a doctorate.
They have older buildings that need more maintenance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay. Like, if you want to set like a laddering effect where Harvard's your pinnacle of, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But
and by the way, shout out to UMass. UMass gave me a great education.
UMass gave me a great education on mixing drinks
and drinking. And
although I didn't go to college at UMass, I was just there supporting my friends.
And by the time I went to college,
I was supporting local frat houses with $5 at a time.
That's right.
I was old man that bought beer for everybody, and we had, like, in our studios, our architectural design studios, we had mini fridges stocked with like beer, Amherst Brewing Company, and the professor would just come in and he'd look at me and he'd be like, "You're an asshole."
So I did find an article, don't know how reputable it is, on U.S. News, just by doing searching. And basically, it was from 2011. It was titled, "Why the federal government is to blame for the student loan crisis." So, just something maybe to refer.
Yeah,
back
you have to forward that to me. So
I didn't want to keep reading it to see if it had everything I talked about.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But
that's fine. That's part of being my co-host. You can definitely do that. So in July of 2016, the federal government owned, like we said, over $1 trillion in outstanding consumer debt. That figure was up from less than $150 billion in January 2009, representing a nearly 600% increase over that time span. That's a lot, So again,
that's a lot of loot.
If we want to get back to giving people an education,
and meanwhile, you have wages that are only barely keeping up with inflation.
Yeah, that's
actually at the minimum wage level. They're not.
Right.
People that went to school to create those loans are making shit.
Yeah.
And by the way, architecture is not like, unless you are like, Renzo Piano or something, you're not making tons of loot.
Right.
Yeah, you're making a decent salary. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go to college, you're going to go just for the basics. What do they call it?
Like liberal arts.
Liberal arts, yeah. I guess you have to kind of know when you get out. You have to be a little bit smarter than the book you're reading to know that there is a good possibility. Now, here's the thing, though. At the end of the day, if you don't get a job in that perspective, because you're in liberal arts, you still made your mind smarter. I guess you have to look at it like that. Like
absolutely.
That's okay, but
you think differently.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get a chance to go to college. I wish I would have gone to college. I've done a lot of other things. I've taken a lot of classes. In our time in retail, you got to be quick on your feet. You have to be good with math, and you have to be a.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you're doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's you get a 4-year degree every 6 months in retail. So I don't know how many doctorates I have at this point.
You should get one of those fuzzy hats.
But it's funny because I tried 3 or 4 different times to go to college.
Oh wow.
So I went right out of high school, and it just didn't work out. Just the way my brain learns and the way I need to learn things didn't work out. Then plus at the same time I started a job at UPS. I don't know if I was supposed to say that. Yeah, I can. It's fine. Big Brown, and I worked 3:30 to 8:30, and then I had a class at 9:50. So like I'm basically finishing like a work day, waking up in the middle of the night, and then I'm trying to like be in actually art history class. Where we're just watching slideshows in the dark. Like, yeah, that worked out real well for a guy who just worked 6 hours, busting my ass, right? So for various other reasons, I stopped going. Then I tried doing night school. I'm like, well, I can't stay awake during the day. Maybe I'll, go to night school. And it turns out, no, just school is really boring. So it just puts me to sleep. Doesn't matter what time I go. And then I'm like, well, maybe I'll change my majors. And I went back another time. And that didn't work out. And then years later, I was in retail, and I'm like, well, they'll pay me for go to school, and so I tried doing an online class. Well, that didn't work out either, But I still think I think I'm doing all right. I don't think
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. I've done a lot of great things in my careers. Was elevated pretty high and never had a degree, so I'm very blessed that way. But again, you learn these other tools. Just the thought of being an architect scares me. Like, I'm responsible for all of that. Like, I want to say
that's you again.
That's you.
I can't believe it. Is that really coming from my?
Is it that thing?
Whatever that is weird.
Yeah, it was kind of freaky. It was like
that was really loud this time.
Shit. Yeah.
I'm gonna shut this off just to make sure it's not it. But that was so loud. I don't think it's coming from that. It can't be. Would have to. Yeah, have to some sort of input to be able to do that. It's got to be one of the phones.
Mine did not go off.
Yeah, we're gonna shut this thing off. Just
yeah. So actually, I enrolled in HCC again though.
Did you really?
Like last month, I missed this semester sign up.
No kidding.
But yeah, no. So I'm again, my current employer they'll reimburse me up to the federal maximum for tuition reimbursement.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've always wanted, is to at least have like a 2-year degree. Like it just, and my brain is slowing down these days, so I'm able to be a little more attentive and focus more on things, and my life in general, especially my work life, is a little more predictable. So even when I went back and did online classes when I was still working in retail, well, there's no good time to say, well, I can focus on this for the next 4 months in retail, or 5 months. I signed up for the fall semester, and then mid-November, what happens in retail?
Right.
You don't have time for anything other than to sleep and go to work. So I'm like, I was taking one class, and I just didn't have the energy to even do that.
Yeah.
So now, things are a lot more predictable, and, my children are mostly grown or self-sufficient. So I'm going to try again.
Do it. It's never too late.
No, I mean, it's, and now I have a better idea of where I want my major to be based on, my current work is, and it's intriguing enough. And, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no end in sight. I'll never be able to say I know everything in my current job.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I'll be looking at a degree in finance, which was never considered before.
I can't believe that's coming through my mic. I can't.
Yeah, because my first of all, my phone has never made a sound like that.
Yeah, my phone is off.
You know what I think it is?
Oh, is it trying to sync with something with Bluetooth?
Yeah.
Let me turn my Bluetooth off. Make sure it's not trying to.
Well, I just turned the Bluetooth off on this one. Let me mute it just in case.
Yeah, that might have been it.
That is crazy, whatever that is. That is so loud.
Yeah.
God, it's going to bother me now.
I just shut my Bluetooth off and everything.
Yeah, I think that's what it's trying to do. I think it's trying to connect, although it shouldn't. Oh, you know what it's probably doing? I wonder if I'm getting text messages upstairs.
Oh, is it synced to your phone? Oh, because you made calls with it and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
So
you're
I think it is. So we'll shut that off.
So you just yelled at us for about 10 minutes about our phones being loud.
You know what? He's going to edit it out.
He's gonna edit
I'm
it
gonna
out.
keep it in.
It's like it never happened.
You know me. It's definitely gonna stay in. But that's weird. That's I bet you that's what it is.
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
just text shamed us.
I did. I looked at you guys.
We could test the theory. If you want to turn it back on, I'll text you.
Yeah, hold on a second. We're gonna do some testing right here.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay, hold on a minute.
3.
Yeah, just let me know when we're ready to go.
Try it again.
Oh, shit. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to text a test right now.
He's testing him.
I'm testing.
Let's see what it does.
I don't know. Maybe it's not
So
text. Maybe it's
weird.
emails, or it could be any other million notifications.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Just when you think you got something nailed,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'm telling you, this is the funny part about doing
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah, back to that, like, never knowing everything, you know? Like,
Yeah.
there you go. You're never going to know it on podcasts either.
Wow, that's hilarious, man. Scary and hilarious all at the same time. So I don't know what to do with that. But we're going to mute both of those. So that doesn't happen again. Wow. Okay. That's going to keep me up tonight trying to figure out what that is. So, all right. So moving on.
So you said something interesting that I just
Yeah.
want to touch on.
Sure.
Is you said that you couldn't think of going into architecture, but I will say architecture is not as it's daunting, but it's not as unachievable as you would think because 90% of architecture is studying art. That's all it is. It's like, and if you can study art and understand art, because you can't understand. Well, yes, you can, but it's a lot of years of training or whatever. But
And that's still all just your own personal
and it's all your own
interpretation.
personal opinion.
Right.
It's like you're doing well. If like, is it long hours? Yes, 100%. Because now you have to, use your creative brain, and your creative brain never thinks it's good enough in your eyes.
Right.
And so you have that battle is always like, it's kind of like you got to try to figure out how to move past that, or just like, walk away from it. You could say it's shit, and everybody else is like, oh my God, what is that? That's awesome.
Yeah,
You're like, it's fucking
It's all
garbage.
subjective.
Get this away from me.
I don't want to see this again.
Yeah, art and creativity, it's all subjective. 100%
It
subjective.
really is.
Yeah.
That's got to be a conundrum sometimes
Yeah.
mentally, is to kind of
Oh,
fight
it's a
through
mental
that.
mind fuck constantly. Yeah. And then that doesn't happen in the real world. You're just making fucking boxes and like,
Making sure they're safe.
making sure they're safe with sprinklers.
Sprinklers and ramps.
Yeah, sprinklers and ramps. Exactly.
Yeah. So when someone gives you a contract, what's your typical time it takes you, first of all, to learn everything you have to learn for that particular area? And then
So that's exactly it. So from the time you get to a client, you have to have all these meetings. It's it takes 10 meetings to get out what they want. Like, because you go in for the initial meetings and they're like, oh, we want this, that, the other thing. Oh, we could put this over here and put that over there, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, we want it to be 4,000 floors tall with
Yeah.
swimming pools on every level.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, that's not going to be cheap, but then we'll show you, right? So then you go, you budget it all up, and you're like, here's what the estimate's going to be. This is going to be like, $4 million for a swimming pool on every level. And they're like, shit, nope. Can we have swimming pools on 3 levels? And so then it dials back from there. Then you start looking into the weeds and like scaling things back. Most of my career, I will say, was food facilities, food processing.
Yep.
And I will say that anything you have in your refrigerator or your cabinets, I've had my hand in that facility, and I'm not even joking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're pretty much, governed by USDA and FDA, Homeland Security. So they're pretty much, freezer boxes, and with a bunch of expensive, cool looking,
Sterile things.
Yeah.
I will say that I made the best project I worked on wasn't so good for my waist, but the best project I worked on was I made an expansion to a bakery that made the Taco Bell cinnamon donuts. And so when we were
Cinnabon bites.
Cinnabon bites when we were
we're supposed to
starting
say
that
Cinnabon.
plant up, that was the plant manager would come to our field office and be like, boom, here's a case of like.
Oh, didn't you say you used to like dump into like 100-gallon drums or something?
Oh
or
yeah,
something
I would
crazy,
walk by and be like,
Just doing quality control.
yeah. This is okay. Could have metal in it. I don't care.
You know what I just thought about too? I didn't connect to this. It's in there, but I'm connected to my Wi-Fi at home. Isn't that weird?
Well, yeah,
You
Bluetooth.
are.
Well, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi is two different things. So,
Yeah.
like, because you sync to it at one point, it'll auto connect if your
Oh, that's-
Bluetooth's on. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Wi-Fi and stuff is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Glad I have you here today because I would have been hooked on that the whole night. So that's why I can't be an architect because I can't tell the difference between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you kind of got to know that,
Yeah.
I think, because there's different systems.
You did didn't you do a distillery too, or something?
Yes, I did work. No, we went to bid on a distillery in Kentucky. And by the way, that was like one of my best like road trips and after that, like from being at the plant for, a week long, putting together a presentation and, walking with the client, that's all you could smell is like
Yeah.
them malting and making the whiskey and is it whiskey? It's whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Or it might be bourbon, depending on
Bourbon,
where Kentucky
right,
was.
right.
If it's in Bourbon County, it's
yeah,
bourbon.
it was bourbon. Yeah, it was one of the 3 bourbon plants.
Yeah.
And so for like a month later, and I'm not even joking, that's all I could smell and taste in my palate was like
Oh yeah.
bourbon. And I drank a lot of bourbon. And because at every
You got to
meeting,
taste the product. I
yeah,
mean.
at every meeting, these guys are like serious.
Yeah, they don't mess around.
Like, they don't even care that it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. They'll be like, here. And it's like, dude, I just woke up.
Yeah. Well, Tina got me in touch with somebody from a brewing company, local. So I got to reach out to him tomorrow, but he's definitely on for to come on the podcast.
Oh, awesome.
So that'll be
What
a great
city
time.
is it in?
I don't know yet. I haven't done my research on him yet.
Okay.
I got to call him tomorrow. I'll show you when we go upstairs.
Yeah.
You'll definitely recognize it.
Yeah, if it's around here, I've been there. I've drank their beer, so
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Yeah,
Well, even like
and I might be able to, if we go that route, I could probably talk to a few other people too.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, business owners are always welcome on here.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. They want to come on and talk about. I told you a long time ago. I have so much respect for somebody who has enough guts to start their own business and what they go through to keep that business going. It's not easy and there's a lot of hardships. And
Some days you go and you got weird sounds coming through the headphones.
that last one hurt me. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But that's got to be what it is. God damn it.
It hasn't happened since you muted a couple
Yeah,
things.
so it's
over.
got to be my phone.
Yeah.
And it would make sense that it did it after I turned it on.
Oh, those are those special texts that you get from like those strippers that you're trying to house.
So somewhere in the house, my phone's going off. I didn't bring it downstairs. So, hopefully my friends are being okay on the text message.
I was just kidding about the stripper.
Yeah. So that's, business owners are definitely okay for me. And, stuff like this absolutely intrigues me.
Mm-hmm.
I love how people can be so technical and have that mindset for being technical where I'm, give me a crayon and a piece of paper. I'll go to town, but
Yeah.
I'll write my name in a stick figure.
That's the thing. Like the thing for me is like, I can separate, I separate work from like my daily life pretty easily, but actually that's sort of true, but because I know that I'm kind of ridiculous sometimes when I'm looking at things and when I'm, I don't know. In my head, I'm like super critical. I'm like, shut up, don't say it.
yeah.
And like, so I guess I separate pretty decently, I guess, but
No, you don't.
no.
No, you're like architect 1,000% of the time.
So do you ever walk around your house and like
Every day.
look at this thing
Every
and go,
minute.
I could just be doing so much other things here.
Every
you know?
every minute. And like I've already analyzed your house.
Did you? Yeah?
Like a million times. Yeah.
How'd it come out?
It needs some things, but that's okay.
You got to let me know.
We'll talk.
It's up to code for 1912, but
Yeah, 1938, I
No,
think.
because residential is different. Residential
Yeah.
is completely like you could be
actually, 38 makes sense because you have cinder block foundation.
Foundations, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so 1912 would have been probably fieldstone.
Stone
And
like
concrete,
literally stone
Yeah.
stacked on like mud.
Yeah.
With some Portland
But
cement
the beauty of
shit.
cinder blocks was invented
Yeah.
not too much longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't have a
remember-
degree in architecture, by the way. I just know a lot of random shit.
Yeah, like
Tony
when I-
probably knows the exact year. I don't.
right. When I had the inspection, I was fascinated by that guy too because he knew all the ins and the outs of how everything should work. He was even in the other side of the room with us, giving me all my pointers about my boiler. He's like, "All right, look at this is an old boiler. This is going to last you a lifetime." You know, and then I'm like, "Well, I'm thinking about getting a new one." He's like, "Stop."
Don't do
Yeah,
it.
he's like, these things, they only get to so much efficiency. You're wasting your money. I'll tell you exactly what we need to. I mean, who does that? You know what I mean? He was going above and beyond.
All you got to do is buy a few, like 3 parts. There's 3 parts on the boiler. Like that transistor thing that you have in the middle.
Yep.
The switch and like the little igniter.
Yeah.
As long as you can keep those good and clean, don't fucking touch the boiler. Leave
Yeah.
it. Because honestly, they don't make them like that any longer.
Right.
Like
Right.
they make them and they just start falling apart and they're
Yeah,
cheap
they're
enough.
disposable now. Like, I mean,
Yep.
mine's.
We are a consumer fucking
Yes, we are.
society.
Yeah,
Yes, we
because
are.
I guarantee the company that made my boiler is out of business because they didn't have to sell any more boilers. You know,
Yeah.
like if new construction slows down and your shit doesn't need to be replaced, guess what? You're not selling any more new stuff.
Yep.
You know?
Except for there is one boiler company that I would stand behind that still makes a solid and it's the Wheeled McLean boilers. Those boilers are still legit.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what brand mine is, but it's original equipment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
from my house, and my house
Yeah.
was built in the 50s. And I had it, you know, I had an energy audit last year, and the guy's like, honestly, he's like,
Don't fucking do it.
it seems pretty damn efficient to me, you
Yeah.
know, for being 70 years old. He's like, everything works like it should.
Yeah, and keep the flue clean because that's where you lose the efficiency. You lose the efficiency if the flue gets all fucked up and like air comes out of the flue and like all that.
Yeah.
You know, keep that tight and you're good. Don't.
Yeah. Well, you know, I thought I was going to save some money with those mini splits I put in. That cost me a good chunk of change, and they're not as efficient as I thought they were going to
No.
be.
Oh, did you do mini splits for heat and air conditioning?
Yeah, and my electricity bill was $560.
No,
What in the
anytime
I
you're
almost shit.
involved electricity with heat, bad idea.
I just shit listening to that.
So
Yeah.
I'm I've tried doing everything over the years. Like I remember, I think when we moved in here, my electricity bill was like $75.
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, this is for the house that we got." And it needed a lot of work when we first moved in here. This place
and
was
it's an older
disaster.
house, so it, you know, it probably needs some efficiency
Honestly,
updates.
it's in pretty.
Yeah, no, it's in good shape.
A really good shape for being an older house because it is an older house, and you can tell it's an older house sometimes. But
That beam right there gives it away.
yeah, that beam and that paneling, the
But
paneling.
and it's
Well,
bad,
see-
that beam
Well,
is
no,
badass.
so that-
also,
It is.
So there was
that's
nothing.
trending right now.
Yeah. There was nothing down here when we first moved here. This was a cellar. There was no walls or nothing. You could see the concrete walls. So
yeah,
the paneling I did, I cheaped out.
Yeah,
That's one thing
because-
I've learned.
because that was what your grandfather told you to use.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it was my dad
the 70s.
who said use paneling.
Yeah.
And it's cheap and you can do the room for practically nothing. But Chris was the one that said, let's carpet these walls.
Yeah, the carpet's fucking legit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of want to carpet the walls. in
I
my
know.
basement.
Touch the
In the
furry
music
wall.
studio.
It was so easy too. I mean, he had this wall up in like no time.
Yeah.
And this was the theater room at one time. And so, yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of stuff over the years, and especially since COVID, I got like it's taken me a long time to find people that are good at what they do. Like one of my best friends, he's a jack of all trades. He comes over and helps out all the time. He used to own his own home improvement company. I have a great plumber now who just came a couple of weeks ago to fix that leak. I had a main that was ready to blow.
Oh, you told you said that.
That was
I think something last week about
couple
that.
days away when he came here. He's like, I'm not kidding. You're probably like a week away from something bad happening. And he's put my mini splits in. So I have a great electrician that we use. Great kid. matter of fact, when I told him I was putting the podcast down here, I told him exactly what day I was starting. He's like, "Oh, it gives you a couple days, man." He's like, "All right, I'm on my way right now." He goes, Let me stop at the supply house," and he put these 2 extra drop.
Oh shit!
Here,
Nice.
these weren't here before.
Yeah.
And he's like, "If you need me again, let me know. I'll put a couple more in. We'll,
Yeah.
So those people are like so valuable.
They're solid.
I'm
gold.
telling you,
Yep. Yep.
when I pay them a little extra, like the plumber came, I paid him an extra like $25. He's like, "I can't take this." I'm like, "Go buy lunch."
Yeah, man, it's solid gold, and that's kind of like, so there's like a huge animosity between architects and contractors.
Right.
My philosophy is like, yeah, big deal. I have a fucking degree, and this is what I do, blah blah blah. But you know what, man? You're out here every day, and you're out here fucking 10 hours a day doing this shit. Tell me how it's going to be easy for you to do it, and I'll figure out how to put it.
So you work closely with the contractor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
But-
hand in
Yep.
hand.
But
But there's also
what differs between you and most architects as far as like where you came from?
yeah. So
Most architects
most architects
didn't build
like,
Family Dollars for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so the part of the animosity is because a lot of architects are book architects. They've never hammered a fucking nail. They've never cut a piece of lumber. They've never, fucking broke their finger on a cinder block. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so they go to school. Oh yeah, it looks perfect on paper. Meanwhile, you go out to wherever you're, building or whatever site you're at, and you can't do what's on the paper.
Right.
So now you have to find like little workarounds, and that's the definition of like being a good architect and just being a fucking dumbass and just flaunting your degree, and that's where the animosity comes, because the guys that sit there and flaunt their degree and they don't know what they're doing, they have these egos and they like just jam it in your face.
Right.
And it's like, this is the way you're doing it. And it's like, you can't do it that way. Then it fails. Then it's like a fight between the architect and the
Who did
contractor.
what?
You
Yeah,
fucked
yeah.
this up.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. It looked good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Humility is a big part of this, the industry that I'm, the design side of the industry.
So are your would you call them a blueprint? Is that what you're making? Or
Drawings, blueprints.
Yeah.
Blueprints is old technology.
Is
That's
it?
like
Yeah.
calling a
It's on a fucking computer now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be offensive. I didn't know.
It's a
No,
drawing.
actually, honestly, I still have a deviated septum from the Diazo machines and blueprints and other things, but that's a whole other story. But the blueprints
Oh, is
are
that diazo? Does that?
it's ammonia, and
That
it's
fucks you up?
Oh, wow.
fucking like when you make a blueprint, so you draw everything out on paper, right? And with pencil and like vellum, and vellum is kind of like a
Real
mylar.
thin, yeah.
No, it's not thin
Oh,
at
it's
all.
not? No?
Like you can cut your finger off.
Yeah,
you
thick
get a
piece of
paper-
plastic. We
Really?
use
Yeah,
that in screen
if
printing
you
as
cut
well.
your finger on mylar, and I probably still have scars somewhere. This is a mylar cut.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
a good example of.
Uh,
It's like a really thin plexiglass almost. Like
yeah.
it's,
Okay.
you know,
So you
it's-
draw on this, right? And then you run it through like a machine. It's like kind of like a copier, but you have this photosensitive paper. Like it's a paper with like this photosensitive stuff, and ammonia and water, right? So the ammonia and water is what makes it blue, right?
Okay.
So so the paper turns blue, but the pencil lines, like it's a negative
Yep.
almost, and so the pencil keeps it like the white part, like
Yeah.
because it
Oh, that's
So
cool.
the,
I never
the
knew how to do-
exposure
yeah.
to light turns
Yeah,
it blue.
'cause the
So
graphite-
anywhere where it doesn't get exposed to light, because that's where your pencil drawing is, your marker drawing, that stays white. So it's basically an identical process for screen printing.
yeah.
Wow.
So I print. I don't draw it. I suppose I could. I use an inkjet printer, and I print black on a clear vellum, basically a clear piece of plastic, and then I put that up against a screen that's coated with a photosensitive liquid that's then dried, and it's a diazo-based liquid. And so anywhere where light is exposed, it hardens. And anywhere where light wasn't exposed, because it's blocked by that black ink that I printed on the vellum, it doesn't harden. So then I can rinse that out, and that makes me a stencil.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's an almost identical process, except you're using paper, and it's turning blue or staying white.
Yeah.
Mine's hardening or not hardening. It's identical.
You can't use for blueprinting though. You can't use. So that's probably where the difference is, because you can't use marker. It has to be graphite or, I don't know, lead.
Yeah, so I don't use. I mean, I use an inkjet printer, but
but
it's special software and it's special ink.
Yeah, and
so
you have some pretty diesel printers.
Yeah, so
Those
my
printers are
basically what
pretty
I do
sweet.
is I have a 7-color printer, and I replace every cartridge with black ink, and then I run special software that tells it to always print all colors, all in black. So when it lays down on the vellum, you can't see through it. It's
Oh wow,
it's dark black, so no light can shine through it.
Yep.
And that's what I put on, so it blocks all light. So everything around where it's black exposes and hardens, and then everything else rinses out and becomes a stencil.
Wow,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's similar, and it sounds like it's similar based chemicals and process.
Yeah. And so when you're doing this diazo machine, when you're making prints, when you're making blueprints, that's where it comes. So you have a freaking jug of ammonia, like it's straight up ammonia.
I can smell it now.
And you just stick a straw tube in the top of the ammonia, and it the ammonia vapors do the fucking magic or whatever. And so you're standing there and you're like, oh God, you're getting exposed. So you only do it when you absolutely have to. And when you're printing day is horrible, because back then it's I'm not wearing a fucking mask. This is stupid. You're just your eyes don't burn, but your nose, it's just
your soul burns.
Your soul burns. It's
you can hear the crackling in the background. Yeah.
So amongst other things, I think ammonia fried my brain as well. So,
so when you have what you don't call blueprints, you call them what again?
I just call them drawings or prints.
So let's say you get everything done, you present it to the contractor. He says, all right, everything looks good.
You got to present it to the client first to make sure.
Okay.
But anyway, Well, fast forward to the contractor.
Yeah, so if let's say all of a sudden he's got to put a pole right here that he didn't realize had to be there.
That's called a change order.
And how does that? Yeah. So that must be fun to deal with.
That's awesome to deal with. That's the best part of my job, because now I have to argue with the guy how he should have fucking captured the pole in the middle of the drawings, and it's not my fault, and it's not the owner's fault, and he's just got to do it.
And there's gonna be no change in the budget.
There's no change in the budget. So those are always awesome conversations.
Oh man.
Yeah, you fucked up. It's gonna cost you money, not us.
Yeah. But you saw. I don't care what I saw. So you have those, but that goes back to, and there's a lot of give and take. So that goes back to with building a relationship. So it's about building relationships. You build these relationships with contractors, and when I was working at my former employee, I had contractors that would follow me anywhere around the country. Yeah. And, because in the long run, they just make a boatload of money, because, yes, there's always going to be something that gets missed, that gets, that changes in the field.
Right.
You're never going to have a clean project. Never once. And if that person is around that has clean projects, and fucking pay him gazillion dollars. But so there's a give and take. So, there's going to be these things. And if you have a good relationship with the contractor, you're going to be like, hey man, can you just put that column in, and, we'll call it a day. Sure. I'll do that for you. On the flip side, you get a contractor that you're abrasive with, and you rub him the wrong way, he's going to be like, fuck you, that's going to be $5,000.
Wow.
And it's sometimes it's justifiable, and it's like, fuck, I should have bought him coffee. And sometimes that's all it takes, is you just buy these guys coffee, or, it's not you don't buy and sell each other. some people do, and they're crooks and they're in jail. But, there's a lot, like, it goes back to the humility. Like, admit that you fucked up. Admit that, like, shit, I overlooked that, work with them. And then, down the line, if they work with you, they're the first person you're going to call when you're in a jam and you need something done in 2 weeks and you fucking
or you just got that next big job and you need a contractor to do this or do that. It's that, I guess it's just that whole, more flies with honey than vinegar.
Yes, I still have contractors that I work with, and they so I work for a different company now, and I've taken more of a managerial role, and I've backed away from the design portion of my career, and I'm doing more managerial stuff, and because it pays more money,
right?
Essentially,
right.
But I still have contractors and clients that still want to work with me because of my not former career, but my
past relationships.
Right.
So now with this new company, I've already landed a couple jobs from that took away from a former employer.
Yeah.
And while utilizing the same contractors, and it's like that's what makes a good, strong architect /
Is there non-compete agreements between like architectural places? So like where you sign something saying, listen, you cannot do dealings with
100%
any of our clients within a certain amount of years.
But not where I used to work.
Okay.
They did, and as a matter of fact, to their detriment. And by the way, like, I love my former employee, and like I miss it almost every day. But I'm much more happier where I am. But they took that non-disclosure away, which nobody understood why, but nobody really cared either, because there was a non-disclosure clause, and just for some reason it was taken away. And, because actually I don't know. I don't know that answer.
Yeah.
But I do want to take a quick moment, because this just came to me a couple minutes ago, and we're going to copyright this. We're going to trademark this right on the air, or, so blank architects. We don't build buildings. We build relationships.
Boom.
Ooh, Yahtzee.
Nice.
That's all you. I'll give you 75-25 something. I don't
Whatever. Check
as long as I can still have the school lunches.
I love school lunches, man. My last job I had a bunch of schools, and they were so gracious. I'd walk in, they're like, "You want anything? You know where to go," and it was like a plethora of stuff.
So what he's talking about. So I think we talked about this last week. Tony just moved back from Syracuse, so he's crashing. He's got a bunk at my house, while he's apartment searching. And Chicopee gives school lunches. We're in it's a free school lunch city. Based on just overall demographic. So every other day, they give you 2 days worth of breakfast, 2 days worth of lunch for every school age kid.
Yeah.
So we go 3 times a week and we collect bags full of school lunches, to feed the kids, to supplement them, and at first, I was apprehensive. I'm like, I can feed my kids, but I'm like, one of the pickup spots was at a school that's pretty much right across the street from my house. So I'll go over, I'll check it out, and it was a score. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So now we go, and I have 3, minor age kids. So I get 3 lunches. So I get basically 6 breakfasts and 6 lunches every other day. And so Tony's been a big fan of that for for the few days that he's been bunking at my house.
I will say that the school mashed potatoes are still spot on.
Oh, I know. I'm a huge mashed potato fan.
Yes.
I was telling you today, the only thing I've eaten since last Thursday because of my thing is mashed potatoes and a couple eggs. I can sit down with a bowl of mashed potatoes and just, that's one of my favorites.
They're so good. And Brett and his wife are a little wigged out about it, but I'll eat them cold.
Oh God, yeah.
And maybe you are.
Yeah, he's eating some stuff that I wouldn't even
eat
perfectly prepared.
Who does that?
And
I don't know. It's just like a leftover situation. It's like,
Do Do you have to add anything to it, or you just straight up take it out of the fridge?
Sometimes some hot sauce. It's usually just hot sauce.
You're warming it up, technically. I guess.
Technically, yeah, it's warm.
Yeah. Wow. First of all, I never would have put hot sauce on potatoes.
Oh, I definitely mashed potatoes.
Oh
Absolutely.
my God.
I probably would have done it on a baked potato, like a loaded baked potato. That sounds good, but I never had the urge to
I'll
put
put
it on
on
mashed.
just about anything.
Yeah. I will put hot sauce on like anything. I'll put it on ice cream.
I haven't tried on ice cream, but I am intrigued. Like I've thought about it.
Now that I said that,
just when I'm mid ice cream, I almost a sriracha flavored ice cream might be something.
What's it called? Like Mexican ice cream?
That's deep fried ice cream.
Deep fried ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, we got something. There's a dairy farm down the street that you can buy ice cream all time of the year, and they had a spicy Mexican.
Okay, so that's something
like
different.
a chocolate.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it
Where's
might have
this?
been like a because I mean, eating spicy chocolate bars. So spicy chocolate bars is a thing. Like you can get pepper.
The chili pepper.
Yeah,
Oh,
chili
wow.
pepper chocolate. So
Yeah.
I'd imagine they probably just use some similar flavoring. I bet that's delicious.
Tell you
bet
what, it
it's
was no
amazing.
joke, man. The first spoonful, I was like, "Whoa, what did I just get myself into?" And it was like a real quick burn, though, like real quick.
Yeah,
And
because
so you
it's
could
ice cream.
Yeah, you could constantly eat it.
Yeah, that dairy it probably
Yeah.
cools it right
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
But my daughter for Christmas got me one of those gift sets of all sorts of different hot stuff.
I see some over there.
Yeah, well, that's right over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, I'll open one up and I'll start, throwing it on stuff, and it's one of them hit me hard the other day. It made my eye burn.
I have like a half a refrigerator door dedicated to hot sauces.
Yes, like he's got there's not a hot sauce that's not in his refrigerator.
Yeah, I'm a
Like,
big fan.
Yeah, I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, I love
That and
food.
pickles. I have an alternate fridge outside, and the entire door is different kinds of pickles.
Yeah.
Or pickled items.
Well, too bad the Big E wasn't going on. The pickle guy's there every year, and he's got that huge booth, all big 5-gallon buckets.
Oh, but he just sells like the basic pickle, right? They're those giant ones, right? It's
Well, no,
like
'cause
$2.
He'll do. He has a whole bunch of different stuff.
Oh, maybe it's a different guy. I'm
Yeah.
thinking I got the guy in Store Town, like where you can usually he's got.
Oh no. So
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
the
the other
pickle
guy.
guy.
Yeah. This is the guy in the main building.
Oh, I don't know that guy. Okay.
I mean, his booth is no joke. And a friend of mine, her husband liked pickles, and that's how I got turned on to him. He called me up. He's like, "Hey, while you're there, I was doing something for the rescue," and he's like, "I need these pickles." So I'm like, "Okay." So I went over there and got him his pickles, and I'm looking at this pickles. I'm like, "Oh my God, like this is insane." So I bought a couple for me, and they were hands down the best pickles I've ever had.
Yeah.
And he was having so much fun at his job. You could definitely tell he loves what he
I
does.
freaking like.
Whenever
I go somewhere, if it's a new area, the first thing I'll do, and I'm a big fan of local businesses, and I do everything I can to shop local, especially when I'm traveling.
Sure.
And so I'll always be at your little mom and pop store, general store, whatever I can find. And the first thing I go is I'll look to see what type of local pickles or pickled items.
Vegetables. Yeah.
Pickled,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, so it just as an example in my refrigerator now, I probably have at least 6 or 7 different varieties of just pickles. So I have sriracha pickles, I have habanero pickles, I have sweet heat and sweet fire, which are just as they sound, one sweet with a little bit of heat, one sweet with some more peppers because it has like Thai chilies in it. Pickled garlic, just garlic cloves.
That's what
pickles.
I was honestly. I was just thinking. I'm like, I wonder if there's pickled garlic.
Oh, you haven't? It's in the fridge.
Oh yeah.
Are you shitting?
Oh no,
Yeah.
yeah, and you just pop them. You can cook with them too. Pickled green beans.
probably shouldn't have told
if
me
you
that.
have not had pickled green beans,
Oh, yeah.
Pickled green beans are
Holy
legit.
shit.
I haven't had those in years,
Yeah.
but
They
I
are-
have had them.
pickled
They are
eggs,
legit.
pickled kielbasa, pickled fiddleheads and asparagus. I'm on the fence
Yeah.
about. They're pretty good.
Asparagus is good. Fiddlehead's
But
not so good.
so I'll give some shout outs. The Granville Country Store.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And the cheese.
And their
By
cheese,
the way,
I was just
And
going to
their
say the
cheese.
cheese
Oh
is
my
off the
God.
hook, man.
Amazing selection of pickled items and just canned items in general.
We got to give them a call. We're going to see if they can get on the podcast.
And then there's a place, and I'm
we
not
love
gonna
your cheese.
I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it's in Littleton, New Hampshire, and they have an awesome. That's where the sweet heat and sweet fire ones came from.
Circling back to our beginning of the podcast discussion about like when we were younger. My grandfather used to get from the Granville General Store used to give me hunks of salami to teethe on
yeah.
instead of like a teething ring and
Yeah,
cheese
and a baby bottle full of Chianti.
yeah.
bottle full of Chianti. Thanks, Ed.
They don't make food like that anymore, man. You have to go to these specialty places now to find
No.
stuff like this. You know what I mean?
Pagers is another one.
Pagers and Agawam.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Shout out to those guys. So
Yeah.
my last job I had. My phenomenal good friend, I think of him like a brother. Shout out to Ben Garfield. He has pagers as his account, and I'll tell you what, those people are hands down one
best.
of these nicest people.
Yes. Yeah.
When he was going through cancer, one day we were sitting in a meeting, and I'm playing with his neck. I found all these lumps on his neck. I'm like, dude, what's up with the lumps? He's like, oh, they come and they go. I go, you're not supposed to have lumps on your neck. And he's the kind of guy that back then would not go to the doctors, right?
Yeah.
So him and his brother, who was my boss, was the same way. So fast forward a little bit, these things started getting bigger.
Oh, geez.
And I only physically see him once a month, but we talk on the phone every single day. And so I finally said to him, listen, those things are really starting to bother me. You need to go get help. So he did. Finally went. And the doctor's like, no, those are just seasonal. Like, it's an allergy. They'll go away. Give him some antibiotics. And they did go down for a little bit. And then one day when he'd like to go see the Red Sox play, I think in Ohio is where he went. So he calls me. He's like, hey, my knee's killing me. I'm like, well, do you have any Advil? He's like, I do. Well, I can get some. He goes, but I got to walk to the stadium from here. I'm like, well, just take some Advil. You'll be all right. I said, send me a picture of your knee. So he sends me a picture. It didn't look like much, but from the time he called me back again later that day,
Oh, shit.
he's like, my knee's killing me. Then he gets back to work and doesn't go to the doctors. So fast forward a couple more days, I can actually hear him dragging his foot one day. I didn't understand what the noise was.
Shit.
And I'm like, hey, are you all right? He's like, yeah, my knee's killing me. So I said, do me a favor, go in the men's room right now, take a picture of that knee, send it back to me. And he wouldn't do it at first. And finally, I called him. I'm like, I don't care where you are. I'm going to come find you, and we're going to go to the doctors. So he's like, no, I'll go. I'll go to Noble when I get home. And sure enough, doctor comes in the room, looks at his knee. He's like, I think you got cancer. And he's like,
shit.
what? You can't tell that from looking at my knee. The guy was dead right, nuts on. Large cell lymphoma. So
jeez.
he battled that for quite some time.
Yeah.
And then finally made it out of the woods. His last test just came back cancer-free again.
This was recent.
Yeah, this was within a couple of years. And he goes every 6 months to Boston. He was on some
huge.
sort of
Yeah.
well, I remember at his wedding, because they at his wedding he knew he had cancer, but they were just trying to figure out what they were going to do. I can remember we're going to get to a point where we're going to have to hold him up to do his vows.
Mm-hmm.
And because he needed blood transfusions. And once he got his blood transfusions, he was like a whole new man. You know, these things, but he had a lot of those. So, I mean, you want to talk about a warrior. I mean, that guy, I went to one of his cancer treatments, and, you know, they got everything down to a science, man. I mean, it was like boom, 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 boom. So we get in this room, and I'm behind these huge windows, it's huge. And we're like, you can't put us together in a room because you'll just die laughing. Yeah. So the nurse comes walking, and she's like, guys, you got to calm down,
tone it down a little bit,
right?
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend anybody. She's really, you're not really offending anybody. She goes, you got people down the whole end of that hallway laughing because they can hear you guys, right?
Isn't that a good thing, though?
Yeah. But, you know, I guess one person probably, and I get it, because when I went in there, and I think that was really eye-opening for me, was you saw people who were only there probably to prolong whatever time that they had.
Unfortunately, yeah.
You know, so I respect that. But like the guy next to us, they only had, because there's only a curtain that separates you, and this guy was just pissing his pants laughing. Well, the funny part about this whole thing was I kept looking out the window because there was enough room for me to walk around, and there was a TV and stuff. So I turn around to go look outside, and there's a woman across the street from me laying in a hospital bed staring at me. So I wave to her, and she waves back. So I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to get a hold of her and see how she's doing.
Yeah.
So we figured out how to do like this sign language kind of thing where she knew what I was talking about. And she thought that she was laughing and stuff. I'm trying to write on paper, and we're going back and forth. It was the coolest thing I've ever done, really. Yeah. And,
that's awesome. Yeah,
you know, the streets in Boston, some of them are only, so that's how close we were. You know, we're not talking down there, but it was pretty cool that we interacted that way, because it looked like she was by herself, and who knows how long she was by herself for. So, you know, if we can make people laugh,
good for you,
that's
man. Like, that's good
awesome
stuff, because like when you do go to those places, that's like, you know, they're not.
Yeah, special places like that. Like, you know, sometimes all it takes is like an uplifting attitude, and, you know, and it's a thin line to walk on, you know, because it's tough to have that type of attitude.
Bringing Jay to those things, like I brought him to like one or two of them, and it was like he was fucking miserable. Like
it's not anything to look forward to.
It's not anything to look forward to.
But does it get any better looking at it? In a miserable sort of light or mindset. So if you can find that way, and it's easy, for the person that's not going through it to say, cheer up, or it'll make it better. It's really behind the person that's there to decide whether or not that's going to work for them. And you can do what you can, but you can't force it. But it's admirable. I mean, something that rings really, it hits deep in me, and it's it's not nothing personal about it, but the movie Patch Adams, like if you've seen it, Robin Williams, like holy freaking tearjerker. But it's based on a true story, and I don't know much about the real guy, but if you're going to portray that type of guy, Robin Williams is absolutely the right guy to do it.
Perfect guy to do it.
And so how I think he portrayed, or how I like to have the picture of that person, how he portrayed him is spot on. But, even in any little bit of effort, something like that, in any aspect is a big thing.
Yeah. Some people who've been around us, like, I don't know if I have a line in the sand when it comes to dark humor during bad times. When my grandmother was passing away, there was all of us in the room. Me and my uncles were like joking around, and some people would say it was inappropriate, but that's how my family works. Like there's no really line in the sand. But I remember the doctor came in afterwards, and he's like, "I wish this was the same way for everybody."
So should there be a line in the sand, because you have like something that's daunting and like miserable, and like making light of it, maybe even if it's a little off color or whatever, like if it gets a rise out of people, your audience, or it's your family, and if that's the way your family, like that's their humor, then fuck yeah, do it.
Well, there's always that one person, you know what I mean? And I get it. Like, you're entitled to your own gig,
shoot
but
Auntie Bertha out the room.
I mean, when my mom passed, I mean, you were there for a lot of it. That's my family. We crack a lot of jokes. We're super sarcastic, and I wouldn't say jokes were made at my mom's expense, but they were made in her honor.
Sure.
And they weren't we never said anything that would not have been said in front of my mom or other members of the family. And, I'll swear by it. It got us through. I mean, there were solemn moments for sure. But there were uplifting moments by us, remembering things in humor, and I've done it. I mean, some of my good friends have passed, and there was a lot of laughs, as I think there should be.
Right. Yeah.
Not at someone's expense, but in memory of.
I will say, being with Brett's family at that time, it was kind of like different for me, because like I've known you for a million years, I feel like, and like I've known your family for a million years, and it wasn't like, it didn't change. It didn't, like, yes, there was a great loss, but
there was an empty seat, and that's all.
There was an empty seat.
And not discounting, my mother, but we were our usual selves, just missing a person. So.
Yep. Yeah. And there was, like you said, there was times where your dad was a little somber, where you were a little, in like your brothers, but for the most part, it was good. It wasn't bad. There was definitely off-color jokes, because that's you guys. But it was a good feeling, and it was honoring your mom.
Yeah,
because your mom was.
I mean, I think it's honorable. It was all just in a positive and maybe humorous light, celebrating the fact that we had my mom for as long as we did, or anybody. So why be sad about that? I mean, is there a sad moment? Yeah, she's not here, or whoever, I may have lost and talked in jest, about or in memory of, but, it should be celebrated. And, I've done everything, almost everything in my life is based on humor.
I know. Yeah.
I try to find a funny moment in just about everything.
Yeah.
And, I think it was a great thing, and we still joke about it, and and now my father jokes about, or we've always joked about what's going to happen when my dad goes.
Yeah.
One of my dad's longest jokes was, oh, who are you going to make fun of when I'm gone? I'm like, oh, we're still going to make fun of you.
Yeah, it's gonna be you.
Because we pick on my dad,
yeah.
just like we all pick on each other. And he goes, oh, who you guys going to pick on when I'm gone? And now I tell him, because, my mom was always big on keeping up with technology and everything. And even though she was in her mid to late 70s,
Oh, wow.
she always had to
for
have
her,
like,
yeah.
the best technology, not best, but be up to date. She had
Sure.
an iPad and a, smartphone, and always wanted to do everything online. My dad didn't want anything to do about that.
I think your dad still has a flip phone, does he?
He does, yeah.
I just hope I can press the buttons at that age. If I can get to the button, I think I can. Even if it takes me all day to get a sentence out,
Yeah.
I just want to be able to touch the button.
So he always joked. He's just like, well, if she goes before I do, I'm going to be in trouble because I don't know how to do any of this shit. He never thought he was going to go before her.
Yeah.
But it happened. And so now, I kind of took on that role. So, I help him organize everything financially because it's all online, and that's where my mom went with it. And so it's not a crash course type thing, so we're easing into it. So, I help handle it and coach him through it. And so, every time I talk to him and I'm trying to coach him through things, he's like, oh, thank you so much. I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, don't get things wrong. I'm like, I'm doing this now, so I don't have to change your diapers. Like, I'm putting in my time now, and now it's up to my two other brothers when shit goes bad, literally, that I'm putting in my time. And so he called me the other day. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I got to think about it now. The diapers are looking better. And I'm like, no, the diapers are never looking better.
Yeah, my mom she still is pretty savvy when it comes to technology. But one of the funniest things is she's on Facebook now, and I enjoy that because but she'll text me on my phone, and then if I don't answer the text, or even if I don't answer the text, and I love you, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm not trashing you, but she'll send me a Facebook Messenger right after that. But sometimes it's like weird stuff, and I'm like, I'm not clicking on that. and so I'll call her, and she's like, why didn't you look at that? I'm like, because where did you get it from, first of all?
Yes.
You do realize that this is how your Facebook becomes compromised.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to get through the whole thing, And she's like, but I found it on Facebook. Why is it? I'm like, oh, boy. So but other things she does really well. Like, she can work her way around a laptop really well. My dad didn't really want anything to do with technology for the most part. He had a flip phone for years. And I don't know whatever sparked the spark to get an iPhone. It was probably my mother. But he let my mother, he realized when he was younger that bills aren't his thing, right? He wasn't good at those. So he gave them to my mother. Same thing here. My I take over that part of it. I mean, more because she has a brain injury, but I think that's the key to knowing how strong your relationship can be is by just saying, I can't do this. Can you please do that? And then I'll take something of yours that you're not good at.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why it's taken us this long to get it under check. But I think people think that marriage in the beginning is I was so excited to get married, but it actually turned out to be one of the most difficult things I've ever done because I guess I could walk away, but we don't get me wrong. Me and my wife have been through some shit. We've always come back to each other, and within the last 9 years or 8 years, it's been probably the best it's ever been. But there is that give and take that you have to have, and it's not easy, man. It's one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, But so I wonder, because I feel like I have to be up on that technology, because one day with my wife's injury, she might not be able to do the things that she's able to do, even that's difficult with her now. Like that beeping sound. That was killing me because I'm like, there's no reason why that should be happening. But, when I'm 70 years old and that beeping sound starts happening, how do I know that's not my defibrillator going off? Or,
Shit, my hearing aid battery's low.
And then are you guys worried? Because you don't have any kids, right?
I have one kid.
Okay.
He's 26.
Oh, wow.
27.
That's
Yeah.
my son's age, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you worry that when you get older that there's going to be nobody there to take care of you?
Oh, he's not going to take care of me. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, yes, you should be worried if you need someone to take care of you. Yeah, I don't know, I guess. I mean, as my kids get older, and especially now, so I have two kids that are in their teens, and they definitely just by way of now being more exposed to other families, other kids, as they gain friendships, that are more meaningful and stuff, because, when you're in grade school, like my youngest son is like, oh, everyone's your friend, like everybody's got to be invited to the birthday party, like all that. So now that they have, friends that they're more involved with, I guess, emotionally and just generally, you hear them talk about like what they hear other kids go through.
Yeah.
And they really start to appreciate, how my wife and I raised them and how we're involved, or, just things we do, because it's always, there's two different roads that can go down. One of them is just like, oh, well, so-and-so has this, and so-and-so has this, and so-and-so has this. And then there's the other one where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe what so-and-so's parents, has them doing, or, what the shit that goes on in their house. And there's a lot more of those conversations where I can be like, oh, so your life doesn't seem so bad anymore.
Right.
So me getting on you about your grades every once in a while that, I know you're not a B student, you're an A student. And that's where it ends,
Right.
Just saying, I expect more of you because you should expect more of yourself, versus, hearing some of the nightmares, one way or the other that other kids go through.
Yeah.
I think that there's an evolution of appreciation. So as my wife and I always thought we were doing things right, and that's kind of like the validation. So now we're at that point. And so to circle things back, I think that, or at least I like to believe that, now that my kids are really starting to appreciate how we're raising them and all the things we're doing for them, and definitely not financially. I mean, they're not spoiled kids, other than we like to experience a lot of things. We travel and we go a lot of places, always on a budget, but they don't have every new gadget, and
Right.
we live humbly other than that. But I like to believe that as they're appreciating everything that we're doing, and especially as they enter their adulthood, they'll look back and they'll just be like, as I am with my parents, where they gave me everything I needed, not everything I wanted.
Right.
There's nothing that I won't do, for my parents. So I think that I, again, like to believe that will hold true. Because as much as I joke with my father about not changing his diapers, I will gladly pay for someone to change his diapers.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, you see your parents in that disarray when that time comes. And, me and my dad had some really great jokes just before he died. And the best one, it wasn't really even a joke. It was just like, when you guys make this connection, right? So he had a problem going, taking a number one when, did I just use the word number one?
Did you just say number one?
Yeah.
How was that all
Can we
about?
say taking a piss?
I can say taking a piss. Wow.
He had trouble going potty.
he was having issues tinkling.
Jesus. I don't know. It must be this oolong tea.
Yeah,
That's a
seriously.
one and I'm done, man.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to be catheterized. And so he's sitting on the edge of the bed. And he's trying to go. And he's looking up at my mom. And I'm trying to hold him up. And my mom, I love her, but she was like, and he finally just looks at me and he goes, tell her to shut up. and my mom didn't hear it.
Yeah.
So I start laughing, right? And he just gave me that look. And I'm like, I got you. I'm like, Ma, let him be. Just let him take his time. I said, rub his back. And then he gave me that second look like you knew he was going to start going. And it was a big relief for them. So me and my wife had that conversation because we talked to the what do they call those people when they come to your house at the end? Hospice.
Hospice.
His hospice nurse. And she's like, people get very uncomfortable with
hospice.
with the fact that they can't urinate. And sometimes,
Especially if you don't want to be catheterized. Yeah.
right, yeah. And they'll wake up out of nowhere, and just, you got to get it. And then the minute you catheterize them, then they usually go peacefully. So it's a real thing. How many times you got up in the middle of the night and you don't want to go use the bathroom, but you're like, oh my God, I got to go. They fight with that internally. And that's probably scary. So, but it was that moment that we connected, like that I had his back, and I knew what he was probably hearing that. He's just like, oh my God.
So it's completely wild, but that's an interesting thought that, that being catheterized, because it's like just an extra step towards relaxation, it's one less thing to worry about, that it could actually, or that not being catheterized could prolong your life. So if you think about it, like when it's like hard to fall asleep, or you wake up, or when you wake up in the morning like 20 minutes before your alarm and you can't go back to sleep because you really got to piss. So it's an interesting relationship that you mentioned that I could definitely see happening. Like, I can't die because I might have to piss.
Right? Yeah.
We call it number one.
Yeah. I'm sorry. But that's very interesting. How I think that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Where it's just like being catheterized is like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So it's one less thing. So there's a lot of instances where people hold on until certain people have come to visit them,
Right.
Or spousal separation, where it's like, two people are dying and one dies like a week later because it's like, I have no, you could say I have nothing else.
Yeah.
But it's just another one of those things that your body, either voluntarily or involuntarily does, or even your mind, where it's just like, no, I can't die yet. I might have to piss, and maybe I'll piss myself. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. He had a conversation with his hospice nurse that I, to this day, have no idea what he said, and of course she won't say what he had to say. I would love to have known what that conversation was like. I would assume it was like, I don't want to be in pain, because his disease was very painful, and I wonder what that conversation is going to be like, because none of us get out of this alive, man. We all have to go through it.
We're all toast.
It's how it's how we make our mark when that happens, how we control how we go.
Yeah.
I know some people don't have that choice, but I think the people that do, for that little short of a period, I think that makes the difference in some people. You know what I mean? I know that I don't want to be in a hospital. I want to be home. I want people having a raging party here, drink and do whatever it is that you do.
We're going to be like 90, dude. Do you really want us drinking and pissing all over your floor?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it to 90, but I'm just saying, it's one of those things. I know it's a morbid conversation, but it's
number oneing all over your floor.
We're at that point. Like, I'm going to be 50 in just a couple of years. Like, my buddy who likes to razz me all the time says, you're closer to death than you are to have, being alive now. So
yeah, well, statistical death. So
yeah,
again, that statistic changes, as an average, and it's hard to leverage up that average. So I mean, to quote Ricky Bobby, with
you ain't first or last.
with my income and net worth, and science always evolving, I think there's reason to believe I could live anywhere between 200 and 300.
Like Randy over here, his soul's been dead for years.
Yeah, look at him. He's been stabbed.
He's still going. He
I
still
don't even know if his head's
I always
attached.
kick myself in the
His
head
eyes are-
because I didn't buy a baboon when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
For parts.
Oh.
it's definitely a moving average.
Yeah.
So if we do the right things, so 100 years ago, we're not even middle age. We're like almost near death.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Not even like, was it 20 something years old, early 30s at the most? You were
that's
gone.
the average.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing is so we're gonna go way off topic here because that's what I like to do. If you look at main causes of death 100 years ago, or even just turn of the century, cancer and heart disease didn't even exist. They were like
It was dysentery.
Yeah, it was
like you got a cut
shit like
sometimes,
that.
and the cut got infected.
So we're dealing with completely different things. But even those, the life expectancy is changing. It will go back to talking about my father. The reason why my father always talked about, how the chance of my mother passing before him was because prior to my father reaching age 56, there weren't any Dumas males that ever made it past age 55.
Wow.
So now my father is 77 years old. He'll be 78 this year.
Beat the clock.
So you talk about being thankful for every minute.
Yeah, like when it got close to 55, it was like watching everything.
Yeah.
Wake up the next morning, yes.
Yeah, it's like an
What
egg
time is
timer.
it? Good
Like,
Lord.
So now knowing that several Dumas males have made it past that age, including his brothers, I mean, that's a wild feeling. So, I look at that as where life expectancy is headed, and I do it in real time within my own, genetic, trail or, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, but, even when, my father was born or when he was my age, aside from, what our family trade had told him, what was the real life expectancy? Like, when you were 40, you were middle-aged, at 45, maybe you're middle-aged now because, going to 80, 90 years old is not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
Even for people who aren't incredibly healthy.
I wonder if you went back in time and went to those people, like when life expectancy was like 20 years old and said, I'm 80 years old. Like, what kind of witchcraft would they think that? You know what I mean?
Burn him at the stake.
Witch.
Yeah, right? But I mean, how much fucking fun did those guys have, Like when they're 12, like, fuck, I only got 8 years left.
Can you imagine?
Let's drink some mead.
Yeah, let's get some bourbon, let's drink some mead. I don't care. Let's drink deer piss. I don't give a shit. That's how all that weird shit came about. Like whoever
Deer number one.
Yeah, whoever thought about smoking weed. It was a guy who only had like 3 years left to live because he was 17. He's like, look at that fucking plant. I'm gonna smoke that.
See what that does.
He's like, no, that didn't do it. I'm gonna smoke that one next.
And then eventually one day the ding sound comes on. Found it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know if that's Bluetooth or just I smoked the right thing.
All right, boys, we are at an hour and 45 minutes almost.
Yeah.
So,
It's a lot of talking nonsense.
yeah, I could do this all night.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to shut this down. So, Tony, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I very much appreciate the support.
Yeah.
And
this was a lot of fun.
yeah, we'll definitely have you on again. Like I said, the chair is always open. So
I'll take the naughty chair. I won't pee on it. Number one on it.
So the YouTube world out there, please like, subscribe, and share. That's the most humbling thing you can do, or to help out the podcast get where it's got to get. And so, Brett, let it rip.
All right. So as always, I'd like to shout out, a couple businesses. One being my family-owned business, IQ Inc. We do screen print embroidery, any size job from 1 shirt to 1,000+ shirts. We can be found at facebook.com/IQinks or www.iq-inc.com. Or, like Howard Stern found out when he was younger, you should always buy your own name as a URL in case you become famous. So you can also find our website at brettdumas.com. And also my son's business. You can't see it, but I am wearing one of the Blue Bee apparel shirts today. He can be found at bluebeeapparel.com, dropping limited run seasonal apparel designs. So bluebeeapparel.com, and also on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as Blue Bee Apparel. That's all I got.
All right, I got one more though. Bordeaux and Sons Flooring.
Yes.
We talked about them again today.
And the floors upstairs look fantastic, by the way.
And just check out the walls.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, look at the walls. So Bordeaux and Sons Flooring, based out of Ludlow, Mass, for all your flooring needs. So thank you very much, guys. Podcast number 18 is in the can.
In the can.
And we're good to go.
In the can. Number 1, number 2.
As always, peace.
Peace.